So good morning, Kal Kadosh. We're going to continue with Daf Peheh. So this is 85A1. We were just speaking about yesterday that we tried to bring a proof from the Pasuk when it said, Ki chaaretz totzi tzimcha. We said the word totzi is one, tzimcha is one, which makes two. Zeru'eha is plural, so it's another two. So that's going to be four. And then it says tatzmiach is one, which is five. So therefore, Chachamim actually learned, the rabbis learned that when you have five zra'im, five types of plantings in an arugah of 6 by 6, which is 6 by 6 tfachim, lo yanki me'adadu, they did not get nourishment from each other. And therefore, since it does not get nourishment from each other, so that's why it's permitted to plant them and there's no problem of kilaim. So says the Gemara, how do we know what the rabbis actually came and they taught? Right, this yesod to do with the nourishments. How do they know this about the 5 by the 6? Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Rabbi Yochanan says, what does it mean in the pasuk? Lo tasig gevul reacha asher gavelu rishonim. This is called the concept of hasagat gevul. Hasagat gevul means is that you cannot come and try to take over your friend's business. That's called hasagat gevul. You're going into his boundaries. Okay, so it says gvul shegavlu rishonim lo tasig, which means you're not supposed to plant zra'im so close to the chatzer of your friend within the shiur of yirikat zra'im, which the rishonim said. Why? Because then you are actually taking away from his border because you're weakening from his gvul, which means if I wanted to come and I wanted to plant, I cannot plant anything directly beside your boundaries, right? Where you have your border, I cannot do that. Why? Because if I do that, I'm doing hasagat gvul. I'm nourishing from your property, and therefore I'm taking away from your boundaries. Okay? My gavlu rishonim. What does it mean, gavlu rishonim? It says, Amar Vishmor ben Nachman im Yonatan says, Vishmor ben Nachman im Yonatan. It says in the pasuk, Ele bnei aseir, right? Ele bnei aseir hachori yoshvei haaretz. What does that mean? He says, Atu kol le'alma yoshvei rakyaninu. It says what? They're not yoshvei haaretz. They don't live on the land. Where do they live? In the firmament. They live in the shamayim. What does it mean? Right? Ele bnei aseir yoshvei haaretz. They live on the land. Obviously, they live on the land. What do you want them to live on? So says the Gemara, Ela, but rather, Shayu Bekin Yeshuva Shel Eretz. They were experts in the Yeshuv of the land. Shayu Omrim, they used to say, Melo Kane Ze Lezait, Melo Kane Ze Legefanim, Umlo Kane Ze Lete'enim. Right? So they used to say that you needed a certain measure for olives. You needed a certain measure for a vineyard, for grapes. You need a certain measure for figs. Chori, what is chori? Shemirichim et haaretz. They used to smell the land, and according to the smell of the land, they used to know what's the best to plant. So imagine you walk into a land, this is good for olives. And that's what they used to plant. Amar Papa, Shayut Toamin et haaretz kechivya. So they used to be tuamin the haaretz like a chivya. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Yeah, what does that mean? Shayu tuanim et haaretz kechivya, like a snake, which means that they used to taste the afar. So also another thing, they used to start tasting the afar, and according to tasting the afar, right, that's what used to happen, that they were able to come and able to taste the land and then say what type of good, where it was good or not good. Okay? Amar Ravasi, says Ravasi, ha'aruga tocha shisha chutz migvulea. What does that mean? When the Mishnah said that you're going to have this aruga of 6 by 6 tfachim, that you could plant 5 tfachim, it says tocha shisha, right? The inside of it already had 6 by 6, besides the boundaries, which means 6 by 6 tfachim is where the zra'im are. It does not include the chelik of the karka, which is around it, right, to go around it. Let me see here if I have a picture. No, don't have a picture. Which means we're not talking about you have to go around the 6 by 6. So that is not included within the 6 by 6. The 6 by 6 is only neto the plantings, nothing else. Okay, Tanya Mihach, you also learned it in the Braita. Haruga tocha shisha, the inside of it is 6 by 6. Givulea bekaman, so how much do you need on the outside of it? Which means you need an outside border to walk around. We learned in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda says, right, the shiur of rochav, kimlo rochav parsa, which is basically one tefach. So you need an extra tefach, right, on each side. So here he says you need this for the hefsek of from one yerek to another yerek, which means from one to another, you need a minimum of one tefach. Here he has a picture. He's talking about over here. Okay, there's number 23, but this is going on a little bit later on. No. Okay, we'll see in a minute. Okay, but for now, it says we need a tefach. Okay, remember, tefach is 8 centimeters, which is basically nothing. But let's see what it says. Amar bizera ve'itemar Chanina bar Papa says bizera and says Chanina bar Papa. My tamad Rabbi Yehuda. What's the reasoning of Yehuda that you said that you need a tefach? Tichti ve'ishkita beraglecha kegana yerak. Beraglecha is extra. What does it mean? You're going to give to drink like the fruits of the vegetables of a garden. What does that mean? Why does it have to say v'ishkita beraglecha with your feet? So the word beraglecha is extra. So he wants to say, so therefore it's like the kafa regel. It's like the distance of the palm of your foot. So mar regel tefach, just like the regel, the width is a tefach. So to the gvul is also going to be a tefach. Okay? So the width of the foot is 8 centimeters. So to here we're talking about that it has to be 8 centimeters. So Amar Rava says, Aruga bechurba shaninu. Really our Mishnah is talking about an aruga, right, that there's no other arugot at all, which means that there's one aruga. Okay, why? Because if we're talking about one aruga between other arugot, it's going to be prohibited because it's impossible to have the proper shiur. Because if you're going to distance yourself, right, with the zraim, right, which is basically, that's what we're saying, 3 tfachim, in order that they're not going to be mixed, so then there's not going to be enough, but only 2 tfachim, right, of the gvulot arugot. So therefore, that's what he says. He says you need 3 tfachim in between. So says the Gemara, ve'ika mekom kranot. He says, 1 second, but you also have the corners of the aruga, which also you're allowed to plant. So if you could plant in it, and not only just in the middle. So Amri Birav, Mishmed Rav, says that the Kanmi Rav and Nimi Rav, malet kranot. In a case where you actually planted the kranot for each one. Okay? Malet kranot is this picture over here, where you're memalet kranot. That's why you could see it's like white in the corners because you actually planted in those corners. You could see it? Okay.
Oh, we have it in here.
Okay. I forgot. You guys have it there. Very good. So ask the Gemara, velizra me'abrai velo limale megavai. So he says, 1 second. Why don't you just plant, right, on the outside and not on the inside? Which means don't fill out the corners on the inside. Do it on the outside. Okay? So he says, Pehemubet. So he says, Gezerah, Shema Yimalet Kranot. No, it was a Gezerah because maybe you're going to fill the Kranot, which means if we let you do it right on the outside, we're going to suspect that maybe you're going to fill in the corners on the inside. So says the Gemara, Velo Yele Rosh Tor Yerek. So he says, what's the big deal? So wouldn't it be like the beginning of a Torah of a Yerek? Right? What's the big deal? Milo Tran, did we learn in the Mishnah? I'm not sure. right? He says, by the way, this is what we mentioned before, where basically you have the tefach in the gvul. So all around this area, which was the middle area, you have the tefach around, you're able to walk around, okay? Then it said...
Are we discussing, Rabbi, because of the kilaim, or why are you giving all these measurements?
Yeah, I understood because of kilaim. I understood because of kilaim. Let's see, number one. Yeah. No, so it says here like this. ואף שלעניין איסור כלאיים אין חוששים לניקה מקרקע משותפת, ואין צריך להקל בעלמא מכל מקום, במקרה של 5 זרעים אין היכר, אלא כשרחוקים הם זה מזה כשיעור יניקה, which means like this. Usually by כלאיים, we don't care about the yinika. We don't care about the nourishment as long as it's recognizable that they're separate. So as long as it's recognizable that they're separate, even though they're within the shiur of yinika and they can nourish from each other, it's still going to be okay. But here, since it's in such a small space and you have so many different types of plantings, it's not recognizable. So since it's not recognizable, you need that it's not getting the nourishment from each other. Okay? So says the Gemara, Velo yehe ela rosh tor yerek, milo tran, then we learn in the Mishnah, im haya rosh, right? It says over here, im haya rosh tor shel yerek nichnas toch sadeh acher. If you had a row of vegetables which are going into another sadeh, mutar, it's going to be a mutar, and it's not kilayim. But you could see for sure the end of your field, which means the fact that you see the end of your field, it's not mixed. Kilayim has to be mixed. Here it's not mixed, but you see the end of your field. So answers the Gemara, En rosh tor baruga. There's no rosh tor by an aruga, by one aruga, because since they're not important by themselves, so it looks like one entity. So since it looks like one entity, it's not like the end of the field and now that's it, you finished. Because even though it continued in the other field, but you could tell it's a different field. However, though Shmuel says, we are talking about an aruga between the arugot. We're talking about one within the other, one beside the other. Let's see if it says anything here. This is the Rosh Tor that we just spoke about, which means that this is your field and then this is another field. So the fact that your plantings went mamash until here, the fact that you could tell that this is the end of the field and this is a new field, there's no problem, okay? This is like the Rosh Tor, the head of a bull. That's why it was called the Rosh Tor, okay? Then it says, Shmuel was talking about an aruga between the arugot. This is this one. And you have one and one, but in between you also had other things in the middle. So because you had other things in the middle, that's what Shmuel was talking about, that it's going to be a problem. So it says, Shmuel says, aruga ben arugot. Okay? So it says the Gemara, 1 second. If you right now have an aruga between the arugot, which means you have the two boxes, and then in between the boxes you had other plantings, they're getting mixed up between each other. So answers the Gemara, benote shura lekan v'shura lekan. He says, no, you're going to be planting one on this side and one on the other side. So Amar Ula comes and he says, Ba'u b'ma'arava. They asked in Ma'arava, Hifkia telem echad al pene kula, ma'u. If right now they were mafkia, they took away from one telem, from one row on the entire thing. What's the halacha? Do we say that since it's not distance from each other, 3 tfachim from the zraim, it's mevatel, the ter, to plant baruga, or not? Okay, so let's see this question. Yeah. Here's Ifkia telem echad al pnei kula. this case over here. Right? Telem echad, one row on the entire thing. That's what you did. Okay? So he says, right? So if you went and you planted only one row throughout the entire thing, and you did a whole bunch of different ones in the same row, what's the halacha? Do we say that since this telem is not meruchak 3 tfachim from the other ones, it's going to be mevatel le'eter varuga or not? So Rav Sheshat says Rav Sheshat, ba'irvuv, right, ubitel et hashura. The fact that the zraim and the telem are going to be all mixed together, it annuls the halacha of the aruga, and therefore you're not allowed to plant like that. Ravasi says, en eruvo mevatel et hashura. It's not going to annul it, and therefore you're allowed to plant like that. So Eitve Ravina Lavashi, Ravina comes and he asks Ravashi, Hanotea shte shuro shel kishurin, shte shuro shel lin, shte shuro shel pulmitzi. Imagine right now you plant 2 different furrows, 2 different rows of kishurin, of cucumbers, 2 different rows of diluin, which are like the pumpkins, and 2 different rows of pulamitzri, which are like beans, right? Mutar, it should be mutar. Why? Because since each one is a different row, it's nikar, meaning it's recognizable, so therefore it should be okay. However, though, if you're going to plant shura achat shel kishuin, shura achat shel lim, shura achat shel pulamitzrim, asur. And that means you did one shura, because before you did 2, 2, and 2. Now you're doing 1, 1, and 1. So now it's not chashuv anymore. So since it's not chashuv, it's a problem. So these are the 2 shurot. This is what we said. Two rows of each one. The 2 rows of the cucumbers, the pumpkins, and the beans. Okay, but then he said, if you're going to do 1, he doesn't give us a picture of the 1. Okay, if you're going to do 1, it's not good. Okay, it's a sur, because it's not recognizable. So answers the Gemara, Shane Hacha, it's different over there. Diika shracha, that because the zmorot, which are the branches of the different species, are very long, right, in many different places. So that's why there's no heker, there's no recognition that it's a separate row. So Amar Rav Kahana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, says Rav Kahana in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Harotze lemalot kol ginato yerek, if you want to fill up your entire gina full of yerek, right, Oseh arugad shisha, you make 6 by 6, ve'ogel ba chamisha, you make a circle of 5. So you have it in the art scroll on the bottom, or, right, you have it also over here. So you make the 6 by 6, and then you make a circle of 5. Okay, that's circle. So he says, so and then you can fill up the karnotea, which is the chetzi tefech on the outside. Kol ma sheyitzeh, which whatever you want. Okay? That was over here also, where you had on the outside, you had other types of things, whether it's here, it's the carrots, here this, but why? Because you filled up the middle, the center. So ask the Gemara, ve'ayika de bene bene. Says 1 second, but you need the gvul of every single aruga in itself, right? So amli deve Rabbi Yanai, they said in the name of Rabbi Yanai, b'machriv ben habenayim. You're taking away no zera whatsoever between the arugot. So therefore, he didn't mean that you're allowed to do the entire thing, but rather you're allowed to permit to do the entire thing outside of the borders. So the borders is actually prohibited. Remember, the border was the 1 tefach on the entire outside. Okay? So Ravashi is going to say another answer. Zurin sheti zorin erev zorin sheti, which means it all depends. If you were doing one of them, which is sheti, right? Let's say horizontal, now you're doing vertical. Vertical, then horizontal. That's how you're doing it. Let's see if you have a picture on this. Yeah, here. You see, this one is going this way, and then these ones are going up and down. So there's horizontal and vertical. That's what we're doing. Okay, that's the answer of Ravashi. Okay, so now asks, Eitve Ravina Ravashi, Ravina comes and he asks Ravashi, Avodat yerek v'yerek acher shisha tfachim. Ve'roim otam. So when you are doing the work of yerek, of vegetables, and it's going to be 6 tfachim by 6 tfachim for the 5 zironim. Ve'roim otam, and you're going to see these 6 by 6, right? Pevav Amud Aleph. We're just going to finish until the Mishnah. So it says, kitavla meruba'at. It's like an aruga, like a furrow that needs a squared, right? A square. So kitavlahu deshari, only if it's going to be like a tavla. Halavachi, but if not, it's going to be a sur. So answers the Gemara, hatam la kule bakula achrina. There we're trying to make another heter. The heter is latir rosh tura yotze mimenu. To permit remember, rosh tura is like this, right? Like the triangle going outside or going on the other side. So in order to permit the triangle, okay, which is coming outside of it. And with this, we actually finish, right? Those das pehe.